The first time my mother said it, I honestly thought she was joking. I'd been gone from home for almost 9 years. After college, I moved across the country, barely visited, barely called, normal family distance, nothing dramatic. Then my father had a minor stroke in February, and suddenly I was driving back to the same house I grew up in, the same neighborhood, the same cracked driveway, the same old maple tree leaning over the roof. Everything looked smaller than I remembered. That happens when you return somewhere tied to childhood. What didn't feel smaller was the feeling waiting inside that house. The moment my mother opened the door, something felt wrong. Not dangerous, just off, like walking into a room moments after an argument ended. She hugged me tightly, but even during dinner she kept staring at me strangely, nervously. At first I assumed it was stress from my father's health problems. Then I made the mistake, the one sentence that changed everything. We were sitting at the kitchen table eating quietly when I casually asked, "So does David ever visit anymore?" Silence, not normal silence, the kind that feels heavy instantly. My father stopped chewing. My mother slowly lowered her fork. Then she looked directly at me and said, "Who?" I laughed a little. "David." Neither of them answered. I remember smiling, awkwardly waiting for the joke to land. It didn't. My mother's face had gone pale. My father looked genuinely confused. Then she quietly asked, "What are you talking about?" A cold feeling moved through my stomach. My father stared at me for several seconds before finally speaking. "Ethan, you don't have a brother." I still remember the exact sound the kitchen clock made after that. Tick, tick, tick. Nobody moved. I honestly thought they were messing with me. Some weird attempt at humor, so I laughed again. "Okay, seriously, where is David?" My mother stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly across the floor. "Stop saying that name." Now fear started creeping in. Real fear, not because of what they were saying, but because they looked terrified. I started listing things, immediately trying to prove it. David's bedroom upstairs, the time he broke his arm falling from the garage roof, his old dog Rusty, the scar near his eye from when we fought as kids. Every memory came instantly, clear, specific, real. But my parents just stared at me like I was losing my mind. Then my father quietly said something that still keeps me awake sometimes. "Ethan, you've always been an only child." That sentence broke something in my head. I pushed back from the table immediately and went upstairs. I remember my mother yelling after me, but I ignored her because I knew exactly where David's room was. Second door on the left, dark blue walls, posters everywhere, old guitar near the closet. I practically ran down the hallway, then stopped cold. The second door on the left was a bathroom, not remodeled, not changed, old like it had always been there. My chest tightened instantly. No, I checked every room upstairs, nothing. No second bedroom, no evidence anyone else had ever lived there. I even checked the attic, the garage, everywhere, nothing. Meanwhile, my mother stood downstairs crying softly while my father kept asking if I was okay. I was, because every memory in my head felt completely real. I remembered Christmas mornings with David, video games, late-night arguments, sneaking out together as teenagers. I remembered his laugh, his voice, his face. How do you remember a person that never existed? That night I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m. I got out of bed and searched through old family photo albums stacked in the hallway closet. Hundreds of photos, birthdays, vacations, school pictures. Every single image showed only me, no David, not once. I flipped through them faster and faster until panic started taking over completely. Then I found one, a camping photo from when I was maybe 12. I stood beside the lake smiling at the camera, and next to me a blurred shape, not clear enough to see fully. But definitely another person, tall, thin, standing beside me. My hands started shaking instantly. Then I noticed something worse. The shape looked scratched out, not naturally blurred, deliberately damaged, like someone had scraped the image with a knife. I stared at it for several seconds before hearing footsteps behind me. My mother stood at the hallway entrance, pale as death. The moment she saw the photograph, a terror filled her face. Then she whispered, "You were supposed to forget him." Every hair on my body stood up instantly. What? She rushed forward and grabbed the photo from my hands. Too fast, too desperate. Then my father appeared behind her looking horrified. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. Finally, my mother said quietly, "If you remember David, then he remembers you too." And directly above us from somewhere upstairs came the sound of slow footsteps moving across the ceiling. Nobody spoke after the footsteps. My mother stood frozen in the hallway, clutching the photograph so tightly her hands shook. Above us, the footsteps continued slowly across the second floor, heavy, measured, like someone walking barefoot across old wood. But that was impossible. I was the only person upstairs. My father finally whispered, "Don't go up there." That sentence alone terrified me more than the footsteps themselves, because it wasn't, "There's someone upstairs." It was, "Don't go up there," like he already knew. The footsteps stopped directly above us. Silence filled the house instantly. Then came a soft creak from the ceiling, like somebody standing still listening. I looked at both of my parents, waiting for an explanation. Neither gave one. Instead, my mother quietly said, "You need to leave tomorrow." I stared at her. What the hell is happening? No answer, just fear, real fear. Then from upstairs came 3 slow knocks directly above my head. Knock, knock, knock. I ran upstairs before either of them could stop me. The hallway was empty, dark, silent. But halfway down the hall, I noticed something I swear hadn't been there before. A door. Narrow white wooden door near the end of the hallway beside the attic entrance. My chest tightened instantly. I remembered that door, not clearly, but enough. David used to lock himself inside there whenever we fought. I walked toward it slowly while my parents shouted from downstairs. The closer I got, the colder the hallway became. Then I noticed scratches around the doorknob, deep scratches, like someone had clawed at the wood repeatedly over years. The door was locked. I turned toward my father standing at the bottom of the stairs. "What is this?" He looked sick. My mother started crying again immediately. Then my father quietly said, "That room shouldn't exist anymore." Every instinct screamed at me to open it. But before I could, something moved on the other side. Slow movement, then breathing, very soft breathing directly behind the door. I stumbled backward instantly. Then a voice whispered from inside, "Ethan." My blood froze solid because I recognized the voice immediately. David, older than I remembered. But unmistakably him. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. My mother suddenly screamed, "Don't answer him." The voice behind the door laughed softly, not evil, not monstrous, almost sad. "You still remember me." I backed away slowly while my father rushed upstairs and physically pulled me away from the hallway. The entire time, the breathing continued behind the door. That night, my parents finally told me part of the truth, or at least part of what they believed. When I was 8 years old, I had developed problems. That's the word they used, problems. I supposedly created an imaginary brother named David after spending too much time alone. At first it seemed harmless, then things escalated. I blamed David for broken objects around the house. Claimed teachers spoke to him at school. Insisted he slept in another bedroom upstairs. But according to my parents, none of it was real. There was never another child, no school records, no birth certificate, nothing. Eventually, doctors diagnosed me with severe childhood dissociation triggered by isolation and stress. Therapy supposedly fixed it, and over time I forgot about David completely. Until now, the story sounded insane, but what terrified me most was how rehearsed it felt, like they'd told themselves this version for years. Around 3 a.m. I woke suddenly to whispering. At first I thought it was part of a dream. Then I realized the whispering came from inside my bedroom walls. Soft, male voice repeating my name slowly. "Ethan, Ethan." I sat upright immediately. The room felt freezing cold. Then came scratching, inside the walls beside my bed. Slow scratching moving through the house, like fingernails dragging through wood. The whispering stopped, silence. Then from directly outside my bedroom door came another voice, my mother's voice. "Don't open the door." I rushed toward it instantly. "Mom," no answer. Then quietly from downstairs, I heard my real mother screaming. The voice outside my room laughed softly, and suddenly the bedroom door began shaking violently. Something slammed against it from the hallway hard enough to rattle the walls. I backed away in complete panic while the thing outside kept hitting the door again and again. Then it stopped instantly. Silence. A few seconds later, a voice whispered through the crack beneath the door, "Not my mother this time, David. They lied to you." I stared at the darkness beneath the door, unable to move. Then slowly, something thin slid underneath. A photograph, old, dust-covered. I picked it up with shaking hands. It showed 2 boys standing in front of this exact house. Me and David, no scratches, no blur, completely clear. And written across the bottom in faded ink were words that made my stomach turn cold. Summer 2003, before the basement incident. Then the hallway light outside suddenly turned on, and beneath the crack under my bedroom door, I saw the shadow of bare feet standing perfectly still outside, waiting. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I sat against the wall holding the photograph while the shadow remained outside my bedroom door for hours, perfectly still. Whoever or whatever stood there never knocked, never spoke again. It just waited. Then around sunrise, the shadow disappeared. I opened the bedroom door immediately. The hallway was empty, but muddy footprints stretched across the carpet leading toward the end of the hall, toward the white door, the door my father said shouldn't exist anymore. I followed the footprints slowly while every instinct screamed at me to stop. The hallway felt colder with every step. Then I noticed something strange. The wallpaper near the door looked newer than the rest of the house. Not recent, but newer, like someone had tried covering something up years earlier. The white door stood slightly open now. Just enough for darkness to show through the crack. I pushed it open slowly. The room beyond wasn't a bedroom, it was a staircase. Narrow wooden stairs descending into darkness beneath the house. And immediately memory came rushing back. Not clearly, fragments. David running downstairs laughing, my father shouting. Something heavy hitting the floor, and blood, a lot of blood. I nearly fell backward from the sudden dizziness. Then from downstairs my mother screamed my name. I ignored her and descended into the basement. The smell hit first, mold, wet wood, and something rotten buried underneath it. The basement looked ancient. Stone walls, single hanging light bulb, old shelves covered in dust. But near the far wall I noticed a second light glowing faintly. A small room hidden deeper beneath the house. The door to it stood open. Inside sat an old metal bed frame bolted to the floor. Chains hung from one side. My stomach turned immediately, and scratched across the wall over and over again were the same words. "He is still here, he is still here, he is still here." My mother appeared behind me crying hysterically. "You weren't supposed to remember." I turned toward her. "What happened down here?" She couldn't answer. Then finally my father entered the basement holding something in his shaking hands, an old VHS tape. He looked 20 years older suddenly. "There were 2 boys," he whispered. My chest tightened. "What?" My father stared at the floor. "You and David." The world around me felt unstable instantly. My mother collapsed into tears. And slowly the truth finally came out. When we were children, David started changing. That's how they described it, changing. At first it was small, talking to people nobody else could see, standing outside at night staring into the woods behind the house, whispering to himself. Then animals around the neighborhood started disappearing. Cats, dogs. Eventually a little girl vanished for 3 hours before being found wandering near the forest, unable to speak. She kept repeating one sentence. The boy in the dark said not to tell. My parents became terrified of David. Doctors couldn't explain his behavior, neither could priests or police. Then one night my father found David standing over my bed while I slept, smiling, holding a knife. That was the night they locked him in the basement. I remember shaking my head repeatedly while listening because none of it felt possible. My father's voice broke completely. He stopped acting human after that. Silence filled the basement. Then my mother whispered, "We thought the house changed him." I looked toward the chained bed again. "No, you're lying. Then suddenly the basement light bulb exploded above us. Darkness swallowed the room instantly. And from somewhere deep inside the basement came breathing, slow, wet breathing. My mother started screaming immediately, then a voice emerged from the darkness. Soft, familiar. Ethan, my blood froze solid. The voice sounded exactly like David, but wrong somehow, too deep, too many voices layered beneath it. Then the darkness moved. A tall shape emerged slowly near the back wall. Human-shaped, thin, unnaturally tall, its face hidden completely in shadow except for its smile. That smile, I suddenly remembered everything, not therapy, not imaginary delusions, suppression. My parents had forced me to forget, because David really existed. But the thing in front of us now wasn't fully David anymore. The creature tilted its head slowly toward me, and in that moment I realized the worst part. It remembered me too. My father grabbed my arm violently. "Run!" The creature lunged instantly. My father shoved me toward the stairs while my mother screamed behind us. I heard something slam hard against the basement wall, then another scream, then silence. I reached the kitchen and turned back just once. The basement door stood wide open, darkness moving inside it, and from below, I heard my father crying, not in pain, in terror. Then his screaming stopped abruptly. I ran out of the house without shoes, without my phone, without looking back. Police searched the home later that day. They found the basement, but no bodies, no blood. No sign anyone else had ever lived there. According to official records, my parents disappeared sometime during the night. The house has remained empty ever since. But here's why I'm telling this story now. 3 nights ago, I woke up to knocking, soft knocking against my apartment wall. Not the door, the wall beside my bed. Then a familiar voice whispered softly from inside it. "Ethan, you left me alone again." And this morning, every childhood photograph I owned changed overnight. Now there are 2 boys in every picture, me and David, standing closer each time.